Hello, I'm Jordan, and welcome back to The Hidden Cup. Today we're going to talk about time management and the way this can be useful for helping us to transition to a more magical way of living. First, I'm going to talk about the idea of a morning routine. The first hour, and really the first 5 minutes of our day, is crucial for setting a foundation for the rest of the day as we go through it. My first introduction to this concept was from my mother, who, as a devout Christian, started every morning with a Bible study period where she would read the scriptures and then spend some time in prayer, both speaking to God and listening to anything that God might lay on her heart for the coming day. And this is a common way of engaging with the spiritual in a wide range of religious traditions. But it is something that's also very useful even for those of us who do not subscribe to an organized religious system. That first hour of the day can be a wonderful way to set the foundation for the rest of our day's spiritual practice. We can engage in a time of meditation, in a time of just general reflection. You can take some time to read some books that are sacred to you personally, really just anything that resonates with your spirit. For me, I like the idea of doing a morning tarot reading, either a 3-card pull or just a 1-card pull to see what the day may have in store for me, or any lessons that I need to internalize, just to kind of help myself prepare. Another option, if you don't want to go the structured route, is to just spend a little bit of time in nature or adjacent to nature, cultivating a state of tranquility. So you could take your coffee or a cup of tea and sit out on the porch and listen to the birds. If you live near the woods, you could go for a stroll first thing in the morning to kind of clear your head, get the blood pumping. If you have a goldfish pond, you could sit next to that and just watch the fish swim. Really, anything you can do to anchor yourself in nature and connect with the web of life would be a wonderful way to start your day. So either of those practices, either spiritual reflection, reading, study, meditation, or just engaging with nature, can be a wonderful way to get us off on the right footing so that we're able to engage with the Spirit as we go throughout our day. After that, for most people, you're going to be going into work or going out in some way to engage with the world. And I've talked in my other video on magical living about some of the tips we can use to carry our spiritual self with us into places that might not otherwise be conducive to it. So I'm going to set that aspect aside and focus more on what we do with our free time. Now, you may say to yourself, well, I don't have any free time. I'm too busy. Well, that's where a time audit is a useful tool to apply to our lives to see if there's anything we can do to actually create a little bit of space. So first, there's the option of trying to get up a little bit earlier to make time for that morning routine. This may not be an option for some of you if you are already overextended and feel like you could not possibly get up any earlier based on how late you have to stay up because of your lifestyle, and that's fine. Another major area where I found that I was wasting a ton of time is social media and the internet. And hopefully, if you're watching this, you do not have as big of a problem with that as I did. But for me, it swallowed probably the majority of my free time by the time I finally reached the point where I had to just let it go. I was spending hours a day browsing Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just Googling any topic that came to mind. I could follow link after link through Wikipedia, just spending hours doing deep dives into any number of topics that caught my mind. But most of my scrolling and browsing was compulsive and non-constructive, what they call doom scrolling, focused on current events, focused on politics, focused on really anything that could trigger my anxieties. So I found that not only was this turning me into a basket case, it was also leaving me with no free time whatsoever to focus on self-improvement. So for me, I decided to delete most of my social media. I kept one account that I use for keeping in touch with friends and family, and now just a little bit maybe for putting some positive energy out into the world, but mostly I no longer engage with social media on a daily basis. This has freed up a tremendous amount of time for me that I have been able to put towards constructive spiritual pursuits for the most part. So once we freed up some time and in our schedule, how do we fill it? There's quite a few different ways that we can nourish our spirit. The things we read, the things we watch, the things we do. Basically, anything we do can be an opportunity to nourish the spirit. So first, of course, there's an obvious choice, books. There are many spiritual books, there are religious texts, there are deep esoteric explorations of any wide range of subjects. And for this, I would encourage you to just seek out subjects that resonate with you personally. Anything that you already have a bit of a spiritual foundation in, maybe see if you can take those studies deeper, learn more about it. But also branch out into new areas, things that you might not have considered before. Anything that catches your interest, take that as a sign that your spirit is signaling you to maybe look a little bit further. There's also television and movies, and although these are often diversionary activities, there are also very many productive and spiritually deep programs that you can watch. Television shows and movies. I've been surprised by the resonance of some anime. I've mentioned before the movie K-pop Demon Hunters actually has some very strong hermetic themes. If you're curious what I mean, I'd encourage you to check that movie out. There's a lot going on there that you might actually find useful for your own practice. Another movie that has resonated with me very deeply is the film Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it's a kind of zany, bonkers movie that is ultimately about the human spirit and family and just the power of choice and the amount of control we actually do have over our own life. It also introduced a wonderful metaphor for pattern interrupt and the way that it can sort of help us jump to another life track where we are not as bound by our patterns and habits. So I would encourage you to check that out if you're feeling trapped, because it has some pretty neat tips in there. It's kind of literalized, but in short, do something random, do something that breaks you out of your routine, do something that is as different from the way you normally operate as possible, just to kind of trick your brain into jumping onto another track. So we've got movies, we have television shows, we have things that we read. But there's also the idea of finding a way to infuse magic and the spirit into every moment of our life. There's this idea you'll see in a lot of religious traditions, making every breath into a prayer. And I love this idea. Whether you pray literally or not, the idea is that every single moment is an opportunity to engage with the divine, an opportunity to find magic, an opportunity to kindle the spirit. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Basically, instead of just being reflexive, being pattern-driven, letting your processes be devoid of any meaning whatsoever, inhale oxygen, exhale CO2, inhale oxygen, exhale CO2, you can transform even the most mundane aspects of existence into a transcendent moment of spiritual engagement. Instead of just breathing in oxygen, we can inhale the spirit of life, the nourishing energy of existence. And instead of just simply exhaling CO2, we can breathe out our gratitude for life, our gratitude for the universe. Inhale love, exhale gratitude, as a friend of mine once put it. And that is kind of a fundamental shift in the way we engage with reality, because we are used to letting the world just be physical and really ignoring as much of it as possible while we focus on our own little trivialities. But magic says that nothing is purely physical, that everything has an element of spirit, an element of magic to it. And if we open ourselves up to those opportunities, to those special engagements, those little moments of synchronicity, the way the light hits a rock on the ground, the way the shadow falls just a certain way, the way the birds sound particularly magical today, the way the sun looks, the way the clouds looked, even mundane things, like today I was driving home from work and I passed a construction site where a bunch of cement mixer trucks were parked next to a large industrial building in a way that to me just sort of looked adorably like a bunch of little piglets feeding off of their mother. And that's something that can be just completely mundane and, you know, just a useless industrial park, or you can see it as sort of a magical metaphor. You can find something playful about it. And that's kind of like a glimpse at what magic can be on the foundational level, on a little base principle, is finding that bit of moreness, that bit of extra, those layers of meaning, the hidden significance, the symbolism, and just those moments that make your heart go, wow, those moments that can open up your spirit. And by changing the way we engage with the world in just little ways, we can open ourselves up to experiencing those more often. So I would encourage you to first, if you don't already have a morning routine to anchor yourself in the Spirit, to find a way to do so, either in what you read, a time of prayer or meditation, or just taking time to exist in nature without a distraction. And in addition to that, I would encourage you to do a time audit. Ask yourself what ways you are wasting time, and don't feel like you have to be super strict and eliminate all free time and all play, because free time and play is crucial for maintaining your spiritual self. You have to leave space for those. And if you haven't made space for those, you definitely need to make space for those. But in addition to that, if you're able to carve out extra time to spend on spiritual reflection, on looking inward, on engaging with the world in a way that is proactive and magical, I think you'll have some incredible experiences, especially over time. Because one of the reasons we're doing this work is because in the moments when we really need that kind of magical mindset the most, those can be the moments where it's most difficult to cultivate it. When we're going through personal tragedy, when we're having a particular bad day at work, when life is boring or stressful, or politics and global events are just so overwhelming that we don't know where to turn. If we have not already learned to anchor ourselves in the Spirit, those can be the moments where it's very, very hard to find that stillness, that inner spark. But if we practice when we have free time, if we practice on a daily basis, just moment to moment, even if it's just as simple as, you know, walking down the hallway on your job and then catching yourself and being like, wait, I'm a human being. The world is magic, and I have a choice to experience that. And in that moment, just pause and breathe differently. Make the breath meaningful. Little things like that can shift the way you engage with the world. It shifts the way that your mind works, and it starts to exercise your spirit. It starts to make it easier for you to access that part of yourself. And when you have one of those moments where you really, really need to engage with your higher self, when you need to root yourself in God, when you need to ground yourself in the universe and feel like more than just a helpless individual lost in the tide of history, you'll know where to turn. You'll have those little habits and techniques that you've developed, and you'll be able to use them in those moments when you most need that extra nourishment from the Spirit. So I hope that this video has given you some idea of little things that you can do to integrate magic a bit more into your own life. These are all things that I'm working on myself, not things that I have mastered, especially the morning routine. I like to sleep in, and I struggle with this. But the times that I manage to do it, it really does set the foundation for a more spiritually productive day and helps me feel like a more integrated and vibrant human being. And I like that. So if that's something that you want to work on in your own life, I encourage you to follow some of these tips, baby steps. It doesn't have to be an entire life overhaul. And if you have any tips of your own, I would love to hear them. Please post in the comments, because I'm always trying to find new ways to improve my own practice and work on becoming a more spiritually and magically vibrant human being. And I welcome any suggestions you have on achieving that in my own life. Thank you for watching this video, and I will post more again soon. Thank you.